Hello, American cooks. I've got a question for you. If I went through your pockets right now, would I find a matchbook from some trendy Pan-Asian tapas bar? Have you, in say, I don't know, the last 6 months, moved your grandmother's recipe book off the shelf to make room for a volume of New Age holistic Norwegian vegan cuisine? Does the mailman periodically pile your porch with parcels from the pretentious Pantry of the Month Club? Just as I feared. In your effort to embrace the big world of food, you've forgotten where you're from. Well, let me tell you, buddy, it's time you quit chasing those kimchi pierogies and come on back home here to America. Now, look, we've got your morsel compass right over here. Each one of the cards here in this plexiglass box bears the name of a sad, lonely, endangered little dish which could very well disappear like the dodo if you don't do something about it. Hit it! Kill it! We'll just take out a card here, and today's American classic is Jumpin' Jehoshaphat Duck Fat. We've hit pay dirt. You know it, you love it, and odds are you've been getting it out of a jar. It's spaghetti and meat sauce. I'm sorry, what's that? Italian? Oh, apparently we're going to need a history lesson on top of our cooking lesson. And that's just fine with me, because spaghetti and meat sauce was, is, and always will be. To unlock the secrets of spaghetti and meat sauce, we must journey first to a city famous for its own meat sauce, Bologna, in the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno. Vorrei, per favore, gli spaghetti e la salsa di carne.
Sono spiacente, ma non ce l'abbiamo sul menù.
Già, me lo immaginavo. Avete gli spaghetti?
Naturalmente.
Avete qualche tipo di salsa di carne?
Signore, siamo a Bologna. Abbiamo ragù alla bolognese.
Now, in America, ragu might not sound very special, but the word is actually derived from the French ragoûter, meaning to revive the taste, and it is actually special. Now, in the case of Bologna, it is a meaty stew based on long-simmered aromatics, carrots, onions, celery, minced meat, a bit of tomato product, and oddly enough, milk. Although most Americans would not recognize it as a meat sauce, ragu alla bolognese is no doubt the rich uncle of our meat sauce, which may explain why the English, who love spaghetti and meat sauce even more than Americans, call it spag bowl, which of course is slang for spaghetti bolognese.
È pronto di ordinare, signore?
Sì, scusi, vorrei il ragù alla bolognese con gli spaghetti, per favore.
Spaghetti? Ma è sicuro?
Certamente, ne sono sicuro. Sono americano.
Di questo non c'è dubbio.
Yeah. No matter what comes out through that door, I guarantee you it won't look like what you and I think it ought to look like.
Ecco, spaghetti e ragù alla bolognese.
Le voglio mescolate insieme.
E allora le mescoli lei. Buongiorno.
Buongiorno. Here's what it comes down to. Spaghetti, long strands of durum wheat pasta, extruded, dried, then boiled, and ragu alla bolognese, a chunky, heavy meat stew, are physically incompatible. In Italy, spaghetti is tossed with oil, cheese, and herbs, while heavy sauces are married to big tube shapes or fresh ribbons, like tagliatelle. So how did a dish that's unheard of in Italy become the poster dish for Italian cuisine in the U.S.? Well, the answer can be found on a small island, but I don't mean Capri. I mean Ellis. From 1892 to 1954, some 12 million immigrants began their American experience here. Some were rich, others poor beyond imagining. And many had their identities changed, while some lost them altogether. Now, culturally, Ellis was an engine of homogenization. You might walk in Tuscan, Sicilian, or Venetian, but you walked out Italian. The American came later on. Bound by little more than a common language, many of these strangers in a strange land settled in tight-knit communities inside larger urban landscapes. No longer forced to dine on black bread and beans, the cooks of such little Italies began to innovate, giving birth to many of the dishes that Americans consider to be Italian today. What's more, many of these new dishes quickly moved on to the plates of mainstream America, compliments of an active, motivated, and highly organized organized Italian-American manufacturing community. A good example, the powerful National Macaroni Manufacturers Association, which was like an extruded pasta cartel in the old days. Now, during the 1920s, they published and distributed WASP-friendly recipes, including a wildly popular one for something called Italian spaghetti and meatballs, which was basically meat sauce. And what was interesting is that it was cooked and served as a casserole. Fascinating. The association also offered up, shall we say, fanciful food mythologies in their magazine, Macaroni Journal. In fact, an association writer may have actually invented the whole Marco Polo bringing pasta to Venice from China legend. Nice piece of viral marketing, that. But the full Americanization of Italian-American cuisine would actually have to wait until 1953, when a U.S. Army hospital cook named Garibaldi La Pola wrote Italian Cooking for the American Kitchen, which, despite vast popularity, was about as Italian as Florence Henderson. American mutts like me were raised on fire engine red meat sauces built out of hamburger. Now, the thing about hamburger is that, well, what you have to understand is that hamburger can, you tell them.
The federal government guidelines say that neither hamburger nor ground meat can contain any more than 30% fat.
Well, then what's the difference between them?
Beef fat can be added to hamburger, but not to ground meat.
What about ground chuck or ground sirloin?
The only rule there is that anything in the mixture, lean and fat alike, come from that cut, and still it can contain up to 30% fat.
But what if the meat in question is labeled as being a certain percent lean?
That's where it gets complicated because of what the legal definition of what lean is, which since 1993 has been about 3% fat. So depending on the meat, you may need a calculator to get it straight.
Okay, what about ground pork?
The standard is 20%. If it's labeled lean, it contains less than 17% fat, but it can come from anywhere on the pig.
Okay, thanks. Now, this is exactly why I buy cuts and ask for them to be custom ground. It's the only way to really be sure. Now, since we have all the time in the world, I figure we might as well use cuts that can actually profit from long cooking, namely shoulders. So, ma'am, I'm going to go with 8 ounces of beef chuck and the same 8 ounces of pork butt. But don't worry, it's not actually, it's shoulder too. And would you grind them for me?
Of course they're fine.
Oh, excellent question. Love to hear that. I will take a coarse grind, please. However, in some shops, that will be referred to as a chili grind. Same thing, don't worry. Now, while she's doing that, we will look into some seasoning meat, okay? We need some other meat to bring flavor to the party. A cured pork product would be appropriate. Now, authenticity would almost demand the use of pancetta, a tightly rolled form of bacon that is air-dried, unsmoked. I like the smoke, so I'm going to go with 6 ounces. That's about 5 rashers of big, thick-cut slab American bacon. To some folks, the image of a sauce pot burbling long and low on a back burner tended by someone's loving mama is comforting and magical, an emotional postcard from the era of hearth and home. But for others, it's a sickly reminder of spooky childhood stories of witches tending cauldrons and moonlit clearings where not all magic is good or good eats. Either way, one-pot sauces are really a tradition born of necessity. See, even in the early 20th century, many people only had fuel to heat one pot. These days, most of us can heat several at a time, 2 different temperatures, no less. A fact that I plan to take full advantage of. Now, excuse me, ladies, I cook alone. Here we have an 8-quart cast iron Dutch oven, known far and wide for its ability to cook low and slow. We will also be employing the 4-quart straight-sided stainless steel saute pan, known far and wide for its ability to take high levels of heat and for giving quick evaporation. Our strategy is going to be to build the sauce over here, but we're going to feed it ingredients from here. That way, we'll always have the flavors kind of at their peak, and doneness will hopefully be all synced up so the sauce can be all it can be. Now, it's important that the saute pan go on whatever your beefiest burner is. Mine is over here. The Dutch oven can go on a relatively low burner. I'm going to go ahead and get this going to low. And the first ingredient, naturally, will be the bacon. Remember, we got 6 ounces here, cut into strips. I'm going to render that out nice and slow. Meanwhile, finely chop 2 whole onions and 3 stalks of celery. Then mince 3 cloves of garlic and then slice 2 more. Last but not least, 1 star anise pod and 3 whole cloves go into a small cotton spice bag. You can find these on the internet. And then just smack the bejeebers out of it. When the bacon is done, get it out and drain it on some paper towels. So we have the nice hot fat. The onion will go into that, along with, let's say, 1.5 teaspoons of salt. You can just eyeball that. And 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. Oh, and of course, our spice bag. Now that goes in low heat until the onions break down and caramelize. It's going to take 45 minutes to an hour, and you're going to have to stir every few minutes to keep burning at bay. In the meantime, place your saute pan over the highest heat that you can possibly manage and add 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Not extra virgin olive oil, just good old-fashioned olive oil, because that can take the heat. The meat in the refrigerator, remember we got a coarse grind on both the butt and the chuck. So we want to get this into the hottest pan we can because we're looking for the Maillard reaction, okay? We want all the flavor that will be produced from fast, high browning, okay? And if you want to, you could bring that to room temperature before cooking, but it's not really necessary with these temperatures. So into the pan. And if it doesn't sizzle right away, then odds are good you do not have enough heat. And want to keep this moving for at least 4 to 5 minutes. Otherwise, you might have liquid puddle up, and that would give us stewing, not the searing we desire. All right, the meat is good and brown, so move that to a colander, set over a bowl, and let it drain until we are ready to implement it further. Now, the pan goes right back on the heat. Now, if we've done our job properly, there'll be plenty of nice little brown bits there stuck to the bottom of the pan. That is flavor we don't want to waste. So we deglaze with 1/2 cup of white wine. That's right. In this case, I'm using a Chardonnay. Now, I know red is all but synonymous with Italian, but what we really need here is some sweetness, some kind of woody flavor, and some bright acidity. Red's full of bossy stuff, like tannins and stuff that tend towards astringency when cooked. We don't need that. So scrape and boil until all the stuck-on bits are gone, and then kill the heat. All right, as you can see by looking down into our Dutch oven, the onions, greatly reduced, but they're nice and mahogany brown. So it's time to bring on the second wave of aromatics. The celery, remember 3 stalks, finely chopped, and garlic. 3 of our total of 5 cloves, minced. They go right in. And just continue cooking over the low heat for 30 minutes or until you can smell garlic and celery all the way out in the yard. This would, by the way, be a nice time to crank up some porcini, just for atmosphere. Excellent. Okay, the fat-soluble flavors from the spices have been extracted, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the little sack. Next, the meat goes into the Dutch oven, and the reduced wine with all the juicy little bits, that goes in too. Now we're still maintaining this over low heat, okay? Now we're going to add another 1/2 cup of the wine and 3/4 of a cup of canned evaporated milk. I repeat, not sweetened condensed milk, okay? Evaporated milk is really just milk that's been cooked and canned, and I like it because it has considerable flavor and body, and it won't curdle when it meets up with the acid in the wine, and that's critical. Also, going to add 3 cups of beef broth. This could be a canned or cartoned. There. Perfect. Oh, and this is where I usually add a little boletus edulis. Behold, the porcini mushroom, unique in the fungal world, not only for its size, but its high concentration of meaty flavors, which are due in large part to a concentration of amino acids, including glutamic acid, the active ingredient in MSG. Now, porcinis, which are quite rare in this country, in the fresh form at least, also contain high amounts of sulfur compounds capable of creating meaty aromas. Luckily, the meaty attributes of most mushrooms, and porcinis in particular, are preserved by drying. A mere ounce of dried porcini chopped fine will add a earthy depth to all that meaty goodness. But odds are No one will ever know it's there. Now you're going to let this heat very slowly and cook very slowly, covered over low heat for 3 hours. That's right, hours. The goal is to slowly break down the connective tissue that's still in the meat, thus extracting all of the gelatin possible. Remember, at this point, it's basically a stew, and stews take time. Just remember, lift the lid every half hour and give it a stir. All right, the Dutch oven has been perking away for an hour and a half, so we'll give that a stir and then turn our attention down to the saute pan. Now, we are going to build the tomato herb acid part of the sauce. The way I see this, it's really the pickiest part of the process because it involves very careful reductions. So I want to keep that out of the meat until we are completely, well, I'm completely happy with it. So 1 tablespoon of olive oil goes over medium heat, along with some more garlic. 2 cloves this time, sliced, and just keep that moving around until it's fragrant. 30 to 45 seconds tops. There. Now add 2 28-ounce cans of tomatoes, diced, not crushed. There, along with 1 tablespoon of dried oregano and 2 teaspoons each of dried marjoram and dried basil. There, just stir that in and let this cook until most of the liquid has evaporated, 25 to 30 minutes. All right, decrease the heat to low and stir in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste and 1 tablespoon of sherry vinegar, which is just as sweet as balsamic, just not as, well, grotesquely overused. I also like to give this about a teaspoon shot of Worcestershire sauce, a personal favorite of mine, and another 1/4 cup of white wine to help bring out the alcohol-soluble flavors in the tomatoes. And then I add 1 tablespoon of a secret ingredient. I'm not going to show you. No, get away. I'm not going to show you. All right, it's ketchup. There's just no replacing it, I'm afraid. All right, let this simmer nice and low for 30 minutes. Oh, and go ahead and give the meat another stir so that it doesn't stick. There. Okay, the final adjustment to the tomato team, and this is a little bit unusual. Add another tablespoon of olive oil, okay, and then turn the heat up to medium high. We're going to fry this stuff to give it an even deeper flavor. We're going to caramelize some of the sugars that are in there. Just keep it moving for 2 to 3 minutes or it will stick and it will burn. There, that has got as much flavor in it as we can possibly develop. So we now move that into the meat mixture, and we'll finally have a finished sauce. Believe me, this has all been worth it. Now, we're going to keep this barely simmering until the pasta is done. Uncovered, please. As we discovered earlier, when in Bologna, you will no doubt enjoy meat sauces tossed with wide noodles like fettuccine and tagliatelle. But this is America. Like the English before us, we want our spaghetti, and we're going to have it. But you know what? At least make it a nice Italian spaghetti because they tend to be a little bit thicker than our domestic product. Now, for 6 people, I'm going to go with ½ a pound because I actually like to serve a little bit more sauce than noodles. For any amount of pasta under a pound, I boil a gallon of water. And the way I figure it, pasta needs plenty of room to move around so that it cooks evenly and does not stick. Also, a lot of water means a lot of heat. A lot of heat means quick cooking, and I think that leads to a more toothsome product. Notice also, please, I like a big but narrow pot. I think that enhances the convective action of the water, minimizes evaporation, and also helps to prevent boilovers. I also like a lot of salt. I go with 2 tablespoons of kosher salt per gallon of water. After all, this is the only opportunity we are going to have to season the inside of the noodles. Salt's in, rolling boil, spaghetti goes in all at once. And I like to keep it moving in just the first few moments because a lot of sticking can happen here. Make sure you've got high heat to bring the boil back as soon as possible, but drop the heat to maintain it. Before we go setting a timer, keep in mind that this is an agricultural product, okay? Differences in the wheat harvest or how long the noodles have been on the shelf and all of that cooking time. But 5 minutes is a pretty good place to start. I'll be back. All right, time's up. We taste. What I'm looking for here is not al dente, but something just shy of al dente. I actually want just a hair of crunch still in the back of my teeth. Only one way to find out. Perfect. We drain. And move the noodles straight into the meat sauce. That's right, we are not going to serve the sauce over the pasta as you see done so often. You see, by allowing the noodles to finish cooking, say 4 to 5 minutes over low heat in the sauce, they'll actually drink up some of that goodness that we have worked so hard to make. And some of the starch coat from the noodles will bond lightly to the meat sauce, and that's going to help to make up for the fact that, well, technically speaking, these two just aren't very physically compatible. One other break with tradition. Parmesan cheese, I don't know, I've got about 1/3 of a cup here, usually sprinkled on at the last moment. Not me. It all goes in. And that way we get the flavors to melt. Well, I hope that the last half hour has snapped a new heading line on your appetite's GPS, which at this very moment should be guiding you home. Now, I know it's easy in this age of edible irony to pass on a good old plate of spaghetti as, I don't know, a quaint anachronism of a naive culinary age. Easy, but dead stinking wrong. See you next time on Good Eats. Buzz, buzz, buzz.